So what's up, everybody? I had this idea in my head because I was very intrigued by those two models that popped up, Sonoma Dusk Alpha and Sonoma Sky Alpha, and they're still free by the time that I'm making this video. So I wanted to make a task and a challenge for myself to basically build a chatbot app, at least an MVP, using just Dyad, which is basically the AI no-code tool, something similar to Lovable. And I'm also going to use one of these models as my main AI model using Dyad. Works. First of all, I asked ChatGPT, which really disappointed me in this whole process. So basically, we have very specific backend responsibilities. We need to have the API service. It's necessary to have authentication and security, conversation states, prompt assembly, a system prompt basically for our AI model. The model call, which basically happens with a provider. And in my case, I actually used something else to achieve the model call. An optional RAG, which basically asks about content. It's about uploading stuff, exports, outputs, inputs, and moderation and safety, observability and costs, and basically the overall deployment afterwards. And then for front end, we have the UI, the streaming UX for the user messages, the outputs of the chat model. We have state management, proper rendering for code blocks, error toasts, retry buttons, accessibility and theming, basic analytics. So I was like, okay, I kind of get how the front end and back end works. So I was trying my best to convey to ChatGPT that I want to use Dyad, but for some reason he didn't really give a fuck about it, and it also kept fucking up Groq with K, with Groq with a Q, even though I also typed it as well. So I kind of feel like ChatGPT 5 is not that great. Anyways, the first thing that was an error was my mistake because I didn't remember that Dyad uses Vite and React. So I was trying to build the whole thing completely different. So all of this is based on quote unquote a mistake. And as you can see, I'm like, why is this not working? So I'm just like, let's retry my prompt. I was like, is this bullshit? Why am I having so many issues? So here, as a first option, I'm trying AI SDK as my provider. But as you can see afterwards, AI SDK does not support Vite as the actual build. So this is the core problem that I'm having right now. And as you can see here with ChatGPT, I'm trying to basically see what was the error. So here is where I find out. And this is a Vite React setup rather than an XAS. So automatically, we cannot use AI SDK as our provider. So the whole build that I was trying in the V1 here is basically unavailable. And as you can see, it started to break. And I was like, oh my God, so much work for basically nothing. And I was like, okay, let's go back to the drawing board and let's try some other ways to find how we can solve this. So I was like, okay, can we actually use Groq or OpenRouter as a provider immediately? And to be honest, ChatGPT wasn't really helpful in this specific thread that I developed because I either confused it a lot or I don't know. I was even trying to add modules properly, but it wasn't. And experimenting with Dyad as well using Sonoma, and the results were hideous. And I was like, there has to be an easier way to go about it without having to deal with a lot of providers, without having to build a database because I had to also connect to Supabase. So I was like, let's just build a new, fresh ChatGPT chat. And I realized during this conversation, before at least I stopped this, that ChatGPT suggested using Cloudflare's workers, which was the key word to be able to basically combine a Cloudflare worker with a Groq API key in order to have responses almost instantly. So I'm going to show you how I did that. So in order to get the Cloudflare worker working properly, you first of all create an account using Cloudflare. And then you go ahead and you basically go to, let me find it, workers, compute workers. And here, as you can see, my AI chatbot MVP worker is active. So I'm going to open it to a new tab. But in our case, what you need to do is basically click on create and then get started with the hello world. Afterwards, Dyad or ChatGPT, depending on which one would you use, but you might have to troubleshoot it a bit, will provide you with a workers.js code that you will paste after inside your actual code. So this is going to be the dashboard that you're going to see. And here on the top right is the code. And the workers.js is probably going to look something like that if you're going to use Groq. This was generated by Dyad, and it works right now. Apart from that, you will also need to do one more thing here for the time being, which is here as a secret key, which is going to be your Groq API key. If you basically go to Groq, fast inference, and start building, you can go basically to your API keys, create a new key, and paste it inside here. And each time you complete a task here inside this worker, the Cloudflare worker, you basically click on deploy. If we open this, you have a deploy here, which means you basically save this and it goes live. What you will need also here is those two URLs, which you're going to provide to Dyad. That's it for workers. And you will basically have to go a bit back and forth to fix this .js file and finalize it. But that's it. So now, when I did a fresh chat, I was like, please provide a concise step-by-step prompt sequence I can paste into Dyad, which is a no-code AI builder, to create a minimal MVP chatbot that runs on an existing Cloudflare worker, uses Groq as the AI LLM backend, supports simple back and forth chat, persists conversation history locally within the worker, which also is a nice addition because I forgot it. That's good. Because here in the workers, we also need to add an extra step, which I will reveal to you when the time comes so that it can be proper. But yeah. And applies a lightweight single theme UI. Okay. Assume that I will supply my own Groq API key and Cloudflare Workers URL. And this is honestly the best attempt so far, and it actually worked. So the first prompt that I got is to basically scaffold the worker, which was kind of a foul, and that's why I'm mentioning that ChatGPT is definitely drunk. So I was like, okay, I opened up the wrong chat, so let me go back to my history and find the correct one. Oh no, I actually remember what I've done. I was so pissed off with ChatGPT that I actually grabbed this prompt, and if I go to Dyad to my new application here, you will see that in the first chat, I literally just add the prompt that I used in ChatGPT, and I was like, ChatGPT just fucks me up constantly for the past few hours. So I'll just use Dyad as it is, and I'll drop my initial prompt. And I also, for help, I dropped the workers URLs that I showed you that exist here in the dashboard before. So to be honest, I didn't use ChatGPT at all. I only used it to understand the front end and back end logic, and it also honestly gave me the idea of the Cloudflare workers. But the in between back and forth to try and basically establish a step by step build for this app, it was just super tedious, and I'm not sure why. I was probably doing some wrong steps as well. So by the moment I dropped this immediately into Dyad, I got a working application. So this wasn't the first look. It was a bit more janky, to be honest, but I fixed everything through Dyad. So what happened initially was that we had an actual UI with back and forth dummy chat. We had a couple of errors, which, as I mentioned, is related to the workers.js. So it took me, I think, 3 times to get this right, which was both basically a back and forth using ask. And as you can see, I'm using a fetch UI in the browser developer settings in the console just to see if in the first tries, of course, it didn't. But the moment that Dyad nailed that, then everything worked. So the one extra thing that you need to add to your worker is this chat storage KV namespace. As you can see here, Dyad is suggesting the following. So the fetch URL has been updated here in our code base, in the local code base, with the correct workers URL. And then it asked me to bind the chat storage KV. And I was like, what is this? The first time that I'm seeing this. And the step-by-step is very simple. So in order to create this KV namespace, which is basically some sort of a database, as far as I understand, please correct me if I'm wrong. So you basically go to your dashboard as I showed you, and inside workers and space and pages, so workers and pages, you will see a KV. Let me find it because I actually forgot where it was. Oh yeah, I actually just typed it here in the search bar, KV. And whenever that pops up, as you can see, I created an instance. It will ask you for a namespace name. Make sure you follow Dyad's or whatever AI's correct namespace is, and then just click add. Then after that, we need to go back to the worker, to the settings. And as you can see, if I go back to my worker, let's go back to the home. Once you properly set up the KV, you go back to your worker. Let me see. Awesome. And here under bindings on the top navbar, you will add a new binding and you will choose the KV namespace, which you just created. And the moment you add the binding, you have to choose the actual worker, which is going to be the AI chatbot MVP in my case. So you have to basically provide the correct name. After that, you need to add your Groq API key in the variables, as I mentioned before. And what else? Chat storage, yeah, case sensitive names. And yeah, the API key in the environment variables, as I showed you. And yeah, then just for safety, you can go back to the main page and the code and just basically hit space and click deploy again just to make sure that everything works. After that, let me see. I probably had, yeah, I was like, I followed all the steps. Do we need to fix anything on our app to work properly now? And I feel like we had to fix a few things in the chat interface to ensure that everything is optimized. So now the fetch URL is correct, which is basically our worker doing all the AI integration. The worker integration is correct. We have storage binding with the KV storage that we just established using Cloudflare and workers. We have proper error handling and a responsive UI. So after that, what I actually trying to change was a few troubleshooting issues, as you can see here with internal server errors from our worker. And this is where basically I finalized my issues with the worker.js file. What I was doing basically is that I was copying whatever worker.js output Dyad was giving me. I was pasting it there. And whenever I was clicking on deploy and there was some sort of error in some line, I was just pasting it back into Dyad. I was clicking on ask. And then after I think 2 attempts, the actual correct workers.js appeared. It's in a very upper line, but I don't remember correctly. And yeah, after that, it was actually working correctly. Here I was like providing with the correct pure JavaScript code because one thing about this specific code, it needs to be pure JavaScript. And that is what fixed it basically. And then any other chat that I had afterwards was basically me refining which models need to be used as a primary model, as a fallback model, etc., because this app is a very bare bones app. It doesn't let you choose a model, but you have a pre-set of models that you can that basically the system uses as a fallback. Because we wanted an MVP. So Dyad was like, please check your Groq API key, make sure it's everything is correct. And now here's a complete, updated, and pure JavaScript Cloudflare Worker code. These are some good keywords to provide so that you can have the best result and a successful deployment, basically. So after that, I actually got this response. Hello, this is a test response. Everything worked perfectly. And I was just started doing some minor UI fixes to make everything feel more compact and nice. So now, ensuring that your worker works properly, it has the correct JavaScript, clean JavaScript script inside, you have your KV database established, and Dyad did all the job to integrate this properly in the backend and the front end. Whenever I click, I send something like, hey, how are you? We now get a reply. I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. I'm a large language model, so I don't have feelings. Let's say something. That's awesome. Dyad is a great framework for building cross-platform apps. What kind of app did you build? A chatbot app. As you can see, we have a working AI, and I think the main model is a Mistral one, if I'm not mistaken. But as you can see, we have a working model. Let's say something like, "What's the weather in New York?" I'm not sure if we can fetch weather data. Let's see if there's gonna be some sort of error. I will need to access real-time weather data. Okay, that's a nice reply. At least we don't have any sort of problem or errors popping up. And the scroll functionality is proper. Nothing gets cut off. Have a clean chat bubble. Have an actual working chat model, and I'm so excited because I was basically tinkering around the idea of building one this weekend for like 3 or 4 days now, and I was experimenting mostly with v0.dev because I was basically seeing a lot of templates. We already built simple chatbot UIs, but for some reason I just couldn't make it work. And yeah, as I said in the beginning, I was excited with these two new models. Everything that was done here was free. This app Dyad is open source, and I'm running Open Router with this free model. So everything that I built is free. Let me fix the camera. Come on. So yeah, it's basically super free, and it worked very fast. At least when I actually nailed down what the issues were, when I did proper examination, and I was like, let's just drop the prompt as it is. I have a worker ready to go. It's not gonna be hectic as before. It actually worked, so I'm very excited. Yeah, I just wanted. It works properly. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, subscribe, and if you want to get in touch with me, and if you want to get better at AI, if you're a designer, a brand designer, or a solopreneur that wants to utilize AI, get paid more, and get seen more, then let's book a call. Let's see what pain your pain points are, I would say. And yeah, my goal is to generally document my process, elevate everybody else in between. And yeah, if you also want to join my free community, it's on School. It's called AI Design Club. So feel free to check this out as well. And see you in the next one.